It's August the 8th, 2024 in Atikaki Park in Manitoba. And finally, Team A is on their way in. Kevin was sitting in a clear window and he had some pretty good shots. Here as we cross the Blood Vein River, and then as they're heading further north up to where our campsites await, you can see that, yeah, there's been some burn in the areas the last number of years, but been a healthy burns. They're not really big. They're fairly good size, but at least it's good for the forest to burn some of it every once in a while and not all of it all at once. So things are looking really good, and now as they fly over, they're getting closer, and here is the other team waiting to leave. This is the third year in a row that my sister Paula has made the trek up to Atikaki to join me for a few weeks on our canoe trips. Here she's out in my new little ADK canoe, a little 12-foot long 20-pounder that people had almost take turns using that all week. It was so popular. Then in the nighttime times, she would lay out. She's really getting into this. She'd lay out for hours out on a rock, and she was watching all these northern lights. Up to this point, the first couple groups had kept me well supplied in fish, and sometimes I had to go out and help with the larder, but very, very seldom. And I didn't know about this time with this crew coming in, but last year Mike had tutored Kevin on how to fish, and boy, did he take off. Kevin's being towed along by a big northern. hasn't seen it yet, but we're going to try and get a picture of it if he gets over here closer to shore. Got to watch out for that snag out there. With Kevin getting his limit every day, I went out a few times and I'd catch one or two more to really make a big batch of fish for that night. Paula fished a little bit, but I think she found out she'd like to just go out and paddle a little bit more. She wasn't too sure about fishing out of that little canoe, but it proved to be really stable anyway. But one thing we would always do is we'd take all of our, after the fish had been cleaned, we had what was left, and we'd deposit on this rock far across from the camp. That's where the birds would come in all the time to chow down. But we kept them well fed, thanks to Kevin. Okay, Kevin, we know. You caught a lot of fish, but he wanted all this proof to show Mike that he actually learned and appreciated what he taught him last year.
Don't you get tired of those freeze-dried meals out there in the wilderness? No. Here's our meal for the night, you know. Salt?
Yes.
Oh, you should take a picture inside.
Okay,
Someone asked about the Canada Jays coming in for breakfast. Yes, they did. I never got them eating out of my hand, but they were certainly coming in and enjoying some of our snacks. Another birding treat was the black-backed woodpeckers coming down and feeding in these trees right next to us. We're probably only about 10 or 12 feet away, and we could walk right up to them, and they never flew away. Others did get out fishing, but trying to fish in the midday just wasn't near as productive. And it seemed, I don't know if we crimped Kevin's style or not, but he seemed to like to get up just after daylight, head out in the water and bring back that limit of fish and get them cleaned up, and he could kind of enjoy his day too. Some days I just have to tell Kevin, no fish tonight, we'll have something else. It's been one of them mornings that Paula was up early and the little ADK canoe was there, so she got in it and headed out into the early morning mist. When the mornings were cool, it was kind of hard to roll out of our nice snug sleeping bags and get going, but up in these moss-covered lands, the beds were really soft, the person would be sleeping really well, and really hilly, so much of our tent pads were way up high, and it had its advantages. People used to wonder, why does Martin go up and lay down and take a nap in his tent every afternoon? Well, with a view like this, why not? We had a rocky landing at our harbor, so one day when Gretchen and Johanna come back, I'd already started out pulling out some rocks and got them into their mud clothes and got a big pole for a lever and started rolling these big boulders out of the bottom of our harbor, and we ended up with a real nice sand approach now to come sliding in quietly and with no damage to the canoes. All ready for 2025. Mary has nothing on me when it comes to clearing these campsites. Let's get these stumps up and out. I've camped with my sister Paula enough that I knew that when she got there, the kitchen was going to be cleaned up, rearranged, and there wouldn't be anything down in the dirt or sitting around. So pots and pans hanging and netting, and I did put a few logs there and put the shelving on when she got things started. She got me going. Other midday activities included hiking some of the trails that go over some of the adjoining lakes. And we were up there. We had our bags along to pick some blueberries because it was a really good blueberry year in the North Country this year. And we did take advantage. We had beautiful views off of a few different decks right at our campsite. I spent a lot of time there, but I did enjoy too getting up into the hills above the camp. The hills like this, they open just big moss covered. Or I'd take the canoe out for a little cruise, and I had one little special place down a little bay, and the creek went up and had this beautiful wall. In the evenings, we'd sit out on our decks, just enjoy these beautiful sunsets as they went along. And then the one time we had an evening like this, and I headed out, and it looked like a normal evening, but by the time I got back, it had changed into the beautiful oranges of the evening, and I happened to be out there and coming back with my canoe after an exceptional evening. And then, the next morning, we'd start all over again. We did get rain very few times, very seldom in the daytime, and we had no trouble just getting under our shelters and waiting it out. I think I went up, took a nap, came back down, and seen that, yeah, we did get a pretty good rain. It had been a great trip, but now it was time to try to figure out if everything was going to fit in the plane. And it did.